Good evening and welcome to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry, the Let's Try program here on the mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. My name's Ian and I'll be your navigator through today's proceedings. But joining me today we have a Beach.
Hi there.
And of course, as always, on the ones and twos, we've got a Paul up in the crystal gondola.
Hello.
And of course, we should always start all of our programs by reminding you that the reason this is happening is because of you. Not the reasoning that I want to do it, but the reasoning that they can pay me to do it is because of you and your kind contributions over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Of course, we have many ways that you can help us out, like youtube.com/loadingreadyrun, twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun, loadingreadyrun.com/shop /loadingreadyrun store. Yes.
Store.
It was going to be wrong anywhere
fine.
by the end, but yeah.
You can buy this at store.loadingreadyrun.com. Probably we might have a lot of these still.
They have them, probably in your size. And if you don't, put in your email. If you want it, put it in your email.
Yeah.
And we'll let you know when it is available in the future.
If you have to ask, ask.
Yes. Yes, even on the store, the answer is continuous enthusiastic consent and continuous enthusiastic commerce. But enough slogans. What we're here to do today is a number of things. First of all, before we get into that, I'm going to address what was on the schedule here. When James asked me a few weeks back what's going to happen on Tinker Tailor Solder Fry, I thought, okay, well, I got it's been a while since we've done a hobby night, and I've got some things I want to do. I want to finish up work on our sushi model.
Nice.
Maybe get some decals and some panel lining on the old Sturm Dragon. The Zoid that we have, so it can get put out on the live set and really brighten that place up. But James,
it's so drab, the way it is right now. Jesus,
it's a collection point.
Yeah.
But we were all of us deceived through James because there was a secret third project that I was unaware of. And that's because I promised y'all that on Sunday we're going to be playing poppin' music.
Oh, right.
Head to head with the new controller system. And in order to do that, I need to take this, get rid of this, and connect this to this times 2. Cool. And then we can go ahead and do some work on this sushi here as well. But what do you got for a speech?
And then I have, since it was hobby night, like when I heard that, I'm like, well, okay, we're gonna give this a shot. This is an Air Gradient DIY kit by the people at Air Gradient. It's an open source air quality monitor kit. Says right so on the box right there. The open source part being that I think it was like people were all kind of working together and coming up with what would go into a good air quality monitor. It looked reasonably attractive. Like it wasn't a complete it'll be this weird open kind of. It won't be like this.
Yeah.
Right? Like it'll just be it'll come in it fits in a case and it's good.
It's a rounded rect from what I can tell on the package.
Yeah, and I got it because one of the things that I was thinking about was how we have air pumps in a lot of in all over the place here.
Yes, we do.
We do not have fresh air intakes or anything along that line.
Not so much, no.
And so if
heat pumps.
Sorry?
You said air pumps. Heat pumps.
Right, heat pumps is what we have just for everything around here. And so Studio A and Studio B run off of heat pumps, which means that what they are doing is heating and cooling the air that's already in the room. And then also to cut down on sound transmission, we have sealed the doors in quite a way that stops a lot of...
Significantly.
Yeah, that stops a lot of air being able to move around. And I'm like, I wonder if CO2 gets really high in there. And then I started thinking about my own house is actually sealed up all the time during winter. I wonder if the CO2 gets really high in there too. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to buy one of these and we're going to test it out in all the studios here. I'll probably take it home and run it for a week at home as well just to see what it's like. But this is the office monitor. This is basically to be like, are we slowly poisoning ourselves in all the studios? Do we need to open them up more often to let air circulate?
This is what we use to find out when the meeting needs to end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, we are now in danger of dying, so yeah.
Not even dying. There were a few studies that were happening at the end of COVID talking about the level of CO2 in a room and how much just a few points per million can begin to affect your cognitive thought and decision-making ability.
Yeah.
Which in a meeting situation. I mean, for comedy, not so much a problem.
Right, exactly. The goofier you get, sometimes the easier it is for the memes to flow. But it did make me really think about like air quality and whatnot. And right now at home, I have the shittiest Corsi Rosenthal box. I have a 20-inch box fan with a 20 by 20 by 4-inch MERV 13 filter, bungee corded to the back, and I cut a shroud out of Coroplast and stuck it to the front.
Oh man, you went all the way.
I went as far as I could where I wouldn't have to buy 4 distinct filters and tape everything down because I wanted something that was fairly thin. And I'm like, this is fine, but it is loud.
That's the difference, yes.
I need to start thinking more about air quality. I'm going to start thinking about building an air purifier. But I'm like, we'll do this first and see how things are in my house.
If you can't measure it, you can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Great. So yeah, I don't know what your assembly procedure is going to be like here, but what I need to do is, thankfully, the Leonardo made this a little bit easier than it necessarily could have been.
Yeah.
I have to attach, the PlayStation controllers run over serial, which is cool.
Okay, yeah.
So in order to access the serial on this, though, I need to use these pogo pins. Well, not these pogo pins, just these standard pins.
Okay.
And a couple of solder points, namely one right here, up near the RX LED, and one down here, which is going to be the signal SS point. I'm not sure which one it is, so I'm not going to point at it yet, but that's why I have my schematics out here.
So what is a Leonardo? Because I've never heard of this before.
Oh, you never heard of this one?
No.
So this is one of the Arduinos come in a number of different packages.
Okay.
You've got your teensies, which are not a Leonardo, or not an Arduino at all, but not the teensy. One of mine's Pro Micro is the one I like the most.
Okay.
But they all tend to use a similar chip of the AT Mega series. And the difference is mainly how they're broken out on a board. So what the Leonardo does that others don't is it has the built-in pins for the serial.
Okay.
Something like the Pro Micro doesn't have the pins broken out. You have to actually get right into solder points on it. However, the non-Pro Arduino the non-Pro Micro Arduino does have pins for it. There's also another step up.
Okay.
The Leonardo Do. Sorry, not the Arduino Do.
The Arduino.
Which is about twice as long as this one is.
Oh, okay.
And is basically just there to have more GPIO ports.
Okay.
And we would use that if we were actually building a pop and music arcade board, because then you'd have extra pins available to you to run the lighting system for the cabinet itself for the attract mode.
Okay, so this is basically to act as an interface from the pop and music arcade setup that you built, but to say I want to use those controllers so I can plug that into a PlayStation?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
This runs via USB and shows up as an HID device in Windows with 9 buttons, or 9 buttons plus 2 buttons for coin and reject. You can also add a keypad to it as well if you want to add the keypad to allow you to control pop and music directly from the controller. But yeah, it works over USB and also PlayStation.
Okay, interesting. So at the end of this thing, what you will have is this thing connected to the cable or to the controller?
To the cable.
To the
itself.
cable. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe we'll use the controller for a sculpture or something in the future. Or,
Yeah.
I need to start putting together a big box of plastic parts for my kit bashing.
Now the
Neat.
there's also, if I recall from when you were building the other parts of the pop music controller, the Leonardo, there's also some specific software that people have built for the Leonardo to do a lot of the HID interface stuff.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you're using a custom-built firmware that's flashed up to the microcontroller to change the button presses into HID interface commands, but also turn the lights on when you press them or change modes so they turn on randomly. There's a few different lighting modes. It does more than just the USB control,
Right.
but that's for us its main purpose.
Okay.
And yeah, you can run on that or the super small one if you just want just buttons, or the super large one if you're running it on a full arcade board that needs lighting for tracked mode.
So is this a project that somebody else has already done a lot of work with, and they're like, here's everything I've done, and you're like, this replicates the kind of experience I want to have?
There is in fact a GitHub repository that you can go to called Crazy Red Machine Poppin' Music Controller.
Okay.
And that's where you get the firmware and all the instructions on how to wire it up.
Cool.
And get it running. And that's what I'll be working off of today as well.
Okay. What I'll be working off of is whatever's in this
Whatever's
box.
in the box.
I don't know if there's instructions. If there aren't, I'll have to go to the website, which is why I have my laptop open. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm going to start off by disassembling this PS controller, because I could just cut through there, but I don't have my cutters with me right now. It would be they're all the way over there.
Right, yeah. It's faster to just sit in the chair.
Well, it's also important to see what we're dealing with here. They might have connectors I could actually use rather than just making a big old cut.
Oh, fair. So I'm going to open this box, and I have no idea what's going to look like on the inside.
I do.
So we're gonna see. It's more of a box.
Oh, but a thank you note.
That's kind of nice. Thank you for joining the community. I didn't join anything really. I just scanned this QR code. Nope.
You have inadvertently joined a community.
Yeah.
Not on a corporate network.
You are now responsible for whatever the community produces.
I like this. It's a little envelope that says "screw
Yeah,
kit"
that's
stamped on
you
it.
get one of those for a Friday night.
I see a little Sense Air looking thing
Oh, yeah.
with some loose components on the inside, so that's probably important. I have a what?
USB to A to C in 90 degrees.
Yeah, right angled.
Interesting.
Both sides right angle.
Yeah, and I mean that's a nice looking cable. Like,
It's a 180-degree cable.
Ooh, that's good TPU on that.
yeah. They definitely decided they wanted to make something that felt good to people too. And when I opened this, oh look, it's a new Apple TV. All right, so we've got, that's it. That's right. That's it.
Not much at all.
Wait, there's a false bottom.
Ooh, this is the Legacy Edition.
Okay.
You'll find the aliens in there.
Ooh, this is that's quite nice looking from a just a fit and finish point
Yeah.
of view.
I don't have any complaints about this. It's like we made a box and there's stuff on the inside that you get to connect to it.
Got cable channels, which is nice, plus
Yeah.
some space in the back if you want to just have it right up against your outlet, I guess.
And I don't know if I need to solder anything or not, but that's okay because I'm just going to go to their website without scanning the
Yep.
code.
Is it taped together with masking tape on the sides?
It sure is.
Okay, that's slightly concerning.
Yeah, I think it's because
Yeah, I think it's a temporary closure.
yeah, to kind of get it together, and then at some point, I'm sure there's a screw or something I have to put through. It's got like, it looks like it has a little reset pin in there. The little USB-C part goes in there, and there's 4 exposed pins, or rather spaces for pins.
Oh yeah, those are probably for programming.
Yeah,
Or actually, if they're 4, that might just be an alternate USB header.
makes sense.
Hey, remember what I was saying about the being lucky and having the wires broken out for me already?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, like I think most old controllers do that. That they're all like, the cables get made and they come in, and in the last part of the manufacture, it's like wrap it around
Yeah.
a strain relief and plug it into the thing. And I don't know. I was going to say, I don't think newer ones do it. I'm like, no, of course newer ones wouldn't do it. They're all wireless these days.
They all go to a USB port.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one is not. It's not an actual port, but it will be easy to remove things from there.
I forget which one I ordered, and it seems like there's 2.
Well, on the side of the box, it says 1 kit. So
Oh,
if they're
one
named the 1 or
Yep, there's
2,
one named the 1.
then I think that's the one.
All right, so let's see here. Old build instructions, firmwares.
Sounds like something Zathras would want.
I have
Old
to
build instructions.
I have to assume it's this one. This one has like feet and stuff. All right, cool. How good's the air coming off the feet? Oh, there's a video tutorial and stuff. Okay, this is the pre-soldered version, PCB version 9. Well, I guess I have to open it up and find out what version of the PCB is. Because I bought this like months ago, and we're just getting around to it, so I have no idea if they've updated it since then.
Show feet air quality.
We talk sometimes about quality of builds on these things, and I want to highlight Sony's good work specifically on these old controllers, because you've ever wondered why your X doesn't rub off? Mm-hmm. It's because they're double shot.
Hey!
I'm amazed.
That's really good.
Double shot.
All right. The one thing I'm a little disappointed with is that the cover that they put on the screen is just kind of shoddily applied.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is a DIY kit, and I guess that's what you get.
Not a lot going on there.
Nope, they're very little. V9 Air Gradient. I did say that this might take me like 20 minutes. Like
you might have to stretch for time here. I'm gonna grab some cutters here. There we are.
Then again, you know, like when we play a board game that says, you know, estimated time to play 45 minutes and we spend 3 hours on it, sometimes projects don't go quite like you think they're going to go.
Well, that's interesting. So, they're showing the fully assembled version. So this new version contains an RGB LED bar on the backside of the PCB that can be used to visualize air quality with different colors.
Or can be used for ground effects.
All 11 LEDs are individually addressable.
Sick.
All right, video tutorial.
The prettier the colors, the more dangerous the air.
We could side use this as a system to let people know who's in the office and not.
Yeah.
One LED per person.
So this is the screw kit.
Wait, are you saying that, like, as different people come into the office, the air quality will change?
I mean, yes, it will. I think more due to the number of people coming in, but you know what? We're going to find out.
So the screw kit contains 2 of those feet, so you can stand it up, 4 Torx T6 screws, and a Torx T6 screwdriver.
Wow.
Yep.
Would you like to use a better one
Well,
when it comes time?
if I need to have a T6, like if you have something like that.
Actually, I just separated out my own screws. If you'd like, you can have these these Phillips heads that appear to be just but they're not self-tapping.
Yeah,
so that's,
I don't know what that's how I'm gonna have to do with any of that. But apparently, skill is computer. I need to have a Linux, Mac, or Windows computer with the Arduino IDE installed to flash the software on the ESP-C3.
And here's the irony, because I've got microcontrollers that normally I would have to flash, but because I don't have to today, didn't bring the machine to do it.
Great. So I guess I'm installing something on the work PC. That's fine, or at least on my work Mac. And then I need a Torx T6 screwdriver, which is included in the kit. Oh, you can also flash the software directly from the browser.
Oh, that's
Christ.
Yeah. Well, you'll need to use a Chrome-based browser then for that.
Let's see. Let's run through everything that's included. The Air Gradient 1 PCB V9. There it is. It has the ESP32C3 Mini OLED display, connectors and pin sockets. The Plantower PMS 5003 PM sensor with cable. I think that's this big-ass thing here. That's for particles, I think.
Yeah, that's the actual
Particulate
sensor,
matter.
I guess.
Yeah, Sense Air SB CO2 sensor, which I think is one of the ones that's in here. I better get all this stuff out. The SHIT 4X, the SHT 4X temperature and humidity sensor module with pre-soldered pins. I don't like this idea of having pre-soldered pins because I'm like, does that mean I need to flow solder at some point? But it doesn't say I
If
need
you've got
one.
oh no, your board is just covered with receptacles for pin-based sensors.
Oh yeah, you're right. This is literally just plug stuff in.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the ESP32 is a fantastic module for this sort of microcontroller-based stuff.
It's interesting that like half the modules are already mounted on the board, and then they just give you a pile of other modules to put in. Like,
Yeah,
I guess there's different other modules you could get in that little pack.
There might be a means by which this Plantower thing is attached that's like, this thing had to go on a special way, and maybe that's why they do it. And some of these other things are like, oh, well, we could give you the RGB bar, but that has to go on a special way. And so maybe they were like, installing these things is a thing that will take more time. So instead, we'll just throw them in a little bag and you can install them yourself. You know, that's probably simpler. But I mean, it did save me like $80 or something to get it this way, and I'm like, I don't mind.
That's a lot,
Yeah,
actually.
It felt like it saved me a lot of money. So it, whatever it saved me, it felt like $80. And then the SGP41 TVOC NOx sensor module. So that's for nitrous oxide. USB-C cable with a 90-degree head. Enclosure, UV-resistant injection molded ASA plastic. Screws for enclosure. Screws for PCB. Screws for PM sensor. Oh no. Oh no. Wait. They did not include all of those screws. I don't know what that means. Well, okay. Start in the following order.
I am in the process of separating out my leads here to, I might actually just spread that out just a bit more to get some more leads because there's a lot of space on this cable. But thankfully they appear to be color-coded in a way that is helpful.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I can, no, I can't strip with that with this, but maybe.
Color-coded is one thing. Color-coded in a way that's helpful, that's a whole other
Yes. I guess this is one of the benefits of using a first-party controller rather than hoping to find a Mad Catz. All right.
Okay.
Strip that out.
Just two things. Ooh, it's purple. Cute.
Come on, just break that last bit of plastic. There we go. Ooh, that's a nice braid on that.
Right. Well, I'm putting the first thing in, and it goes at the bottom of this really weird-looking part of the PCB. Like, I don't know why you would make a PCB look like that, unless it was for like antenna purposes.
Yes, or trying to avoid antennas.
Yeah, like interference or something.
That's a very odd.
Did we show that on camera? Can we get
Yeah.
it
Bring it
on?
over here.
Yeah. See over in this section here,
Got your
all the holes, the
whole lattice.
the pattern.
Yeah, it's got to be some sort of antenna thing.
Yeah, right. Or like it's meant to like encourage airflow or something like that.
That would probably be my guess then.
Yeah. Interesting idea. All right, so these four things go in here.
Man, there's a lot of ground cable in this wire. Okay.
That was easy.
Right, of course. I was like, airflow? How hot does this thing get? But of course, it's an air sensor.
Yep.
It actually needs airflow for other reasons.
Okay, so data appears to be brown, which is different for this version of Next Gen. Like I could tell where the joke was about to go.
Yeah, it's real good.
We got command, which is orange. Again, weird for Starfleet. 7-volt rumble motor. We're
7 volts?
You were not going to install that one just yet.
Okay.
So, just reading from the page here. LEDs will, in PlayStation mode, LEDs will be dimmer due to a 3.3 volt power being put through because of that's what the controllers normally run at.
Okay.
7 volts is just for the rumble motor. We can get through that by attaching the 7-volt one to the voltage in on the Arduino, and also running, importantly, some NPN transistors and some diodes to prevent backfeeding voltage. So I think we'll just avoid that for right now, and maybe make the LEDs brighter in the future through a different manner.
How would you? But if you were to do something like that anyway, would you like breadboard that out, kind of thing?
That I'd probably want to breadboard out into a separate module. I think as is, I can get away with putting most of these into some pins, which is going to be what I will do. But I won't put them in all the way because the pins themselves are in another room. We can get those later.
I like how it says that for my Sense Air S8 CO2 module, that when I install it, to be sure that I don't install it the wrong way around. There's a bunch of pins that have to be installed and it goes into these two things. I'm
Yes.
like, but you can't because there's 4 pins here and 5 pins here.
Okay, that one you got well.
Right? Like
The
it's
other
like,
ones, though.
please make sure you don't get this wrong. And I'm like, there's no way for me to get this wrong if all the pins have to plug in, which I'm assuming they do.
I would hazard to guess that they've been, in the time that they've producing this, kit, a lot of people have installed it wrong.
Well, and this is version 9 of the PCB, right? So I'm like,
And
I'm
they've-
sure in version 1 it was like, just solder all this stuff together and just 8 pieces on a wire or whatever, right?
Actually, are the pins parallel with each other?
They aren't even that. They're offset slightly from each other.
Really?
I think. Well, actually, no. If you did turn it end for end, you
Yeah.
could get 4 of the 5 pins on the other
That's
side.
why, yeah.
That makes sense. All right, PMS sensor next. The CO2 sensor uses a 7-day automatic baseline calibration and thus might need some time to become accurate. Ooh. All right. Well, we're not going to find out how anything goes today, then.
I get to use the receptacle pins this time. 1, 2, 3, and 4 of them.
Yes, that is plugged in.
This is a rare treat. Usually we're doing pins to go into holes, but now we're doing holes to go on top of pins.
Nice. Please make sure you mount the SGP41 Air Gradient TVOC NOx module facing outwards. The sensor has to face outwards. Okay. That goes there.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Testing.
SCK. Which one is that? That is our clock.
I have already discovered a problem with their instructions.
And?
Well, so it gives you introduction, right? If they're going to watch this and be like, oh, there's a video tutorial for the previous version, but it says it's version 9, so like it would be fine. Tells you your skills and equipment you need. You can also flash the software directly from the browser, right? That whole thing. Here's your components, here's the schematics, and then here's the assembly. But as I was reading this, I'm like, it doesn't say anything about you need to flash it now. It's just been like, the ESP32C3 Mini is the CPU that it uses, or it's the microcontroller it uses, and it's connected to the USB port on the board, so it can be flashed. So it can be flashed to the USB port. There's also 2 buttons below which you might need during the flashing process, and then they move on to the next thing. They don't say, please flash the thing now. They start with, putting in your sensors, and then you scroll down some, and it's like, great, now test it. Power on the device. You should be able to see the display lighting up. If you flash the Wi-Fi version, I'm like, I haven't done anything yet. So I'm going to have to read this a little more to figure out what it's doing.
It's a little bit of work to understand what it wants from you.
Yeah. Well, let's continue to read the whole thing. There's a lot of stuff about screwing stuff into place, which is nice. Soap helps getting the screws into the enclosure in case you use them. You gotta see this, like,
Wow.
just a screwdriver.
That is not what I expected.
Just a massive rock of Neutrogena, right? All right, cool.
It's like, of all the things, it's like that, we did the joke in one of the Friday nights where, where somebody is describing something and they use an egg to, like, it's like, imagine, this thing is like an egg, and it's like, or they have to get in the, like, no, this is too confusing for you. Here, can somebody give me, like, I need to get a real egg to show you. Yeah. And it's like, the egg part wasn't the part I was confused about. It's like, of all the things, of all the steps of this process, what soap looks like was not the thing that was confusing.
Yeah. All right, well, it says I should power on the device, and I should do that without actually putting the enclosure together. So that's what we're going to do.
But, like, assuming you're doing a remote flash in your browser, you would have to power on the device before you can do that.
Yes, that's correct.
So maybe that's what, maybe the flashing is actually after the power on process.
You know what I'm going to do here also is my MacBook only has USB-C ports because it's the future.
Yes. Big same.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go get something that can make my USB-A into USB-C.
We need to go find a computer from the past.
Or, and hear me out, you could just find a USB-C to USB-C cable.
Oh, if we had one of those in the moon base, I'd be fucking surprised. I'll be right back.
I'm sure we must have at least one.
We do in various places, but they may be being used. But
I was gonna say chat can go back to one of the Rhythm Cafe episodes or a previous Tinker Tailor to probably find where I grabbed one from.
the trick is it the right USB?
Oh God, I hate that.
Here's what I have.
Oh,
I picked up some stuff because I was like,
Oh.
at some point, I'm trying to put together a station for a laptop to be plugged into, like something like this, right? USB-C.
Yep.
Give them a nice. So this is an Anchor. This is the 565 USB-C hub, 11 in 1.
yeah, Anchor makes good stuff.
They really do. This has HDMI port and a display port on it. Has power delivery built in. Has a trans flash port, right?
Wow.
Well, yeah. So it has SD card and compact flash. But the reason why I wanted it was also because it has Ethernet on the end of it, and it has the audio jack and whatnot.
Less used,
Yeah.
but
Less interesting. But overall, I was like, well, I'll buy this very nice thing. I've got one of these on my desk to use with my stuff. And then I was like, well, then I also need power supply, which of course I bought an Anchor, whatever this is, 736 charger. This is the Nano 2 100 watt. Yeah, have a look. And then I had to buy a cable. So I bought a USB-C to USB-C cable so I could use it with this thing, right? But of course, I can't remember if I sprung for a data charge cable or just a USB charge cable.
or even the right kind of USB charge cable to get the full effect.
I don't know if this thing can actually do, well, I do know that this would work as just a charging cable and can carry 100 watts, but I'm like, is it appropriate to the task? Because USB-C was soon to be USB 3 as well, but this thing probably doesn't need USB 3 at all.
I think we're going to start, consulting the rabbinical community about USB-C cables.
It's like the we use a lot of Elgato stuff here, and we like especially the Stream Decks and all this kind of stuff. We like it a lot, but the complaint I have about their webcam is that it comes with a USB-C cable, and in all my experimentations, that USB-C cable is the only USB-C cable that it actually works with. I have never found another
Another one?
USB cable that can do whatever. I don't know what's in that USB-C cable, but whatever it is, none of the other cables I've tried have worked with it.
If only I knew what the special sauce was.
Oh, 180 connect. Hey, there's a Wi-Fi hotspot you can connect to.
Apparently, yeah. Let's see if I can. I don't know what it is I'm doing. It just said if you flash the Wi-Fi version, you need to connect it to the Wi-Fi. Do this. Open your Wi-Fi settings on your phone. Look for a hotspot called this.
Yeah, so you're looking
one
for
of
that
those-
hotspot. Yeah, I know. I've done this before.
Okay. Let's just,
That's a really one of my favorite microcontroller innovations is that
They've got enough.
the like
juice.
bootstrap Wi-Fi hotspot system. It's quite brilliant.
So I recently set up this for myself at home on a little stand attached to my monitor lever. But I've taken this thing and run zip strips around the edges of it and through the holes in the laptop riser. So just the one cable comes up to connect into the laptop. The power goes into the adapter. And then I've got a second one for my second USB-C cable for display port for my secondary monitor.
Nice.
Real nice and clean.
what the hell am I even doing here?
Well, this is Tinker Tailor Solder Fry. Let's try program in the Mighty Loading Ready Run Video Entertainment Network. I'm navigating, so you're trying to connect.
I have connected to a captive Wi-Fi
You
setup,
did? Okay.
right? But it's like got configure Wi-Fi, which it does not ask me to do, because it's like you should have to type in this password. I didn't have to type in anything. To use the Air Gradient dashboard, you'll see the registered device. To do so, please follow the onboarding. Follow the onboarding process.
If that doesn't work and you still need to flash it, I think what you'd want to do is use your laptop to connect to that Wi-Fi connection.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether or not I can run the LED test immediately.
Good call. I'm going to connect suck and miso, which is my favorite thing to do with miso.
I don't know how to do that, in fact. All right, well, we'll just...
Miso is brown.
Yep.
We're learning all sorts of things today.
Yep. God, I wonder if someone. I wonder if there's some middle-level engineer in Sony Japan who is just loving their life because they managed to pull that across.
All right, there we go. Captive Wi-Fi. Let's go through the onboarding process.
Please let the Wi-Fi go.
Free the Wi-Fi.
Are you seriously going to make me sign in with an account?
Ho, 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 ho.
Oh my God.
That doesn't seem very fancy open source.
Oh, Jesus. And then I click sign up here and it's like, oh, you need to set up a user account first. All right. Not a fan, but let's see what, I guess it's how this is supposed to work.
Is this is this like one of those things with the with your watch or your fitness stuff where it's like you can compare air quality to your friends and
You can have leaderboards.
yeah. Oh, looks like Beach has closed all his circles for not breathing carbon dioxide.
You've closed all your rings. That means no air can get in.
Come on. Unlock.
Okay. Miso goes to the far pin. So if we are considering that to be the key,
I need to generate a new password. Please let me generate a new password.
okay, so SCK is clock, and that's blue, and that's the lat. Good thing it's possible to reverse your pin inputs on some of these things. I got my clock where my Mosey's supposed to be.
Oh no.
Which reminds me, time change is happening soon, so. Miso.
Come on, buddy.
CK is secondary pin.
What in the hell? What in the every hell?
This is where I would start Googling for name of device and third-party firmware.
I mean, it's. You think a DIY open source device.
Oh, I see.
It would already have.
One would hope.
Sure. Let's see what happens when I do this. There. Now I can request an authentication code. Please check your email.
Fun.
Yeah. I don't know if I have to utilize this whole dashboard thing this way.
You shouldn't have to.
We'll see.
If it's an ESP32, there should be a way of just getting directly to it if you want.
Yeah.
That said,
Because I know it's supposed to live on your Wi-Fi. And
Yeah.
you should be able to just be like, oh, it lives on my Wi-Fi. It has this IP address or this domain name or whatever. And then I can type that in my browser and it'll be like, here's everything I've learned so far.
yeah.
Yeah.
You should definitely make sure to take note of the MAC address and put it on its own little VNet.
It was offering to let me sign in with Google. Yes, that's definitely what I want to do. Hey, what if,
What the heck if
what are you doing?
ground and Mosey?
I
only 2 more I need then here are
Holy
potentially purple for the 7 volt.
Great.
AC, which is green. And attention, which is yellow. And the red is the 3.3. So I'll need that.
It is this one.
Yep, I'll need that in there.
If my monitor has QR codes on the backside, use the QR codes. I don't have QR codes on the backside. Would have just done it that way anyway.
I mean, what about that sheet that had a QR code on it?
Right? It's showing things on the front, which is kind of nice.
The LEDs seem to... Oh, hey, you're actually getting information, too.
There's values being shown.
Yes. That seems like a lot of CO2.
God damn, this is... Okay, let's see here. When you start up... I'm going to need my serial number, apparently. Wait, no, I don't. What? When you start up the monitor, you can see a message, 180 seconds connect to Wi-Fi hotspot, air gradient, whatever. The whatever is the serial number. Use it in lowercase only, and also do not use air gradient as part of the serial number. If it shows you this, you want this, and the current model is this, which I think is what I have. And then it wants my serial number, which means in order to do that, I have to, I think I have to unplug this. We're currently showing 3 micrograms per cubic meter of particulate matter, 2.5, and 878 parts per million of CO2. But it has no idea what the temperature is like in here.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, especially because I plugged in the temperature
It
sensor.
probably needs to be calibrated too, or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But you know, let me know when you're due to do a test, and I'll
Yeah.
ready a burp.
When things are happening. All right, let's see. It wants my serial number.
I needed to add up different. I need to go to pin, because the 3.3 volt out from the controller needs to go into the 5 volt or 3.3 volt, I guess? We'll find out.
Like Arduino can run on either, right?
Yeah, specifically this one too, it looks like. So I guess it should be fine. I should specify, I'm probably not going to test this on air, because getting a PlayStation 2 in here and hooked up is not going to be a very easy route, but you'll get to see it on Sunday. Not you. All right, so that's the one pin. Now the other ones are the direct board solderings. So that's going to be... Here comes the fun bit. Not to quote Hayden Christensen too much, but...
Here comes the fun bit. What else would I do with this thing? I would move it. That's where that will go.
Okay, and let's trim that down a bit. And then we're going to tin the ends of these little wires and do some very, very tiny soldering.
Ah, now it's telling me how to connect to Wi-Fi. Connect the monitor to the power supply, and then I'm supposed to connect my Wi-Fi to this thing.
All right. Actually, let's go ahead and scrape the tops of these pins just to make sure they're ready to receive our solder and, of course, our flux, which is around here somewhere.
This
All
thing
right.
is...
We are looking for SS, which is the RX pin up here on top.
Okay.
Let's give that a little scrapey scrape. That really does expose the pin.
I don't care.
Not sure how close you can get in here, Paul, but it's The difference is this pin to this pin. You can just maybe see that one, well, you can maybe just see that one dot, which is now the exposed pin that I've scraped off there.
So that's the was already some solder on that pin.
No, that's just board coating.
Uh-huh.
So a little bit of plastic, I guess, or whatever particular liquid resin.
Is it not? Are you not actually intended to be able to solder to that pin?
Not to this one, because this technically, if I'm remembering things correctly, is not technically a pin header or even a through hole. It's just a via for the board to go from one layer to another on the other side.
Why? So it's just would a different model of board have that as a pin? And
It
it's just
would.
These particular ones don't have that.
Yep. In fact, it's the Arduino Micro that has the header pins for those ones available. But
the Leonardo does not.
yeah, the problem though being that the Micro is much smaller and has many fewer GPIO ports, which means can't do the big 9 buttons and the LEDs at the same time. I thought it might be nice to do LEDs.
So you're going to be installing your own thing. Oh, hey, you got lights.
Got a whole bank of LEDs.
So you're going to be sort of uncovering those pins that were not initially
Exactly.
broken out on the board.
Yeah, and then soldering directly to them, which is always a little bit scary. So the second one here is we got 2 pins right here, and we're going to be going into the bottom one for the ACK. I want to be a little bit careful there too, not to break any traces, but I still want to give it some scrape.
Ack.
This is the. So this is uncovering the serial pins on this board, eh?
Yep. I believe these ones are used mainly for the flashing system, but.
So you can't just like reconfigure one of the GPIO pins into a serial pin.
Sadly not. I think this goes through the bootloader in a way that's non-reconfigurable.
There's a couple questions in chat about your little nice toolkit there, Ian. The orange or beige kit you've got there.
The which one? Oh,
This thing.
this thing.
Yeah. Where did you get that?
My father, after he died. I don't know where this came
He
from.
dropped this.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Hey!
There's more to it. Well, there you go. If you'd like to know what this is.
Oh.
And again in French. For wood carving, model building, and do-it-yourself projects.
So this is definitely not like a thing he made himself in his...
No,
this is a purchased product.
Yeah, this is very plastic.
Did you had never actually looked under that?
I never looked underneath that foam.
I think that's kind of great that you're just finding it out with the rest of us.
Yeah.
I think this is... So
Just move the foam and be like, and there's just a message. It's like, Ian, my son.
Thanks, Dad.
The fortune is hidden in.
things that frustrate me about like situations like this. So what I'm looking at is I'm like, well, okay, let's find out if there's new firmware for this thing, because that's always fun, right? It's fun to update and brick shit that you just set up. And so I think I have it set up where I can see what's going on, because what it's telling me here about stuff like you have PM 2.5 is average of 3. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's telling me here. It's 21.6 degrees right now inside here too. It keeps changing back and forth.
Seems like that could be reasonably accurate.
Yeah. Well, also 870 parts per million is what it says here, and it just showed on the monitor that or on my screen
865
is 865. So I'm like, okay, so it's getting information, it's sending it back and forth. I have no idea if that will increase things or not. And bumped up to 870, whatever. So, and there's like TVOCs, NOx, there's like all sorts of cool like little things they're reading out in here. I can get more
Nitrous
history.
oxide?
Yeah, there's a nitrous oxide reader in there. I thought there's supposed to be a carbon monoxide reader in here too. Relative humidity is 57%. Like everything that's being reflected on the front of this is also showing me on my screen here, and I have to go to a website in order to see it, like the online dashboard, like neat little things and stuff. There's this online dashboard that shows you what your monitor is currently reporting back, and I don't think I need to have it plugged in order for it to do that.
Is that a cloud-based thing, or is that running from the machine?
I'm not sure. That's the problem. Like, I don't actually know if I'm getting this.
Like, is the URL?
It's app.airgradient.com, and I have to assume that's
so that's going to be a
remote.
cloud-based
Which
thing.
Wi-Fi are you connected to right now?
I'm connected to my Wi-Fi.
Okay,
on
so
here.
that is connected then to the other Wi-Fi, I guess.
It would have to be. So, yeah, it says there's new firmware available. The problem I'm having is that it asked me, it's like, hey, what model of device is this? So I told it, because it says V9 on the thing. And but the only choices it gave me was, here's the latest version, which is I-9 PSL, and then it said, here's the 2 older versions. And I'm like, well, they didn't have a 9 in them. They had like an 8 in them. And I'm like, well, I guess the 9 version is the right version.
I would guess.
I would guess. And so I'm like, this is because of there's nothing printed on the box, on any of the instructions, or on the only thing printed on the main board is just V9, which is how I know it's a version 9. So I'm left with this thing of there's nothing on the front that says a V9, there's nothing on the back that says that's what it is. It's like, right, this is kind of the problem of sometimes buying, I don't want to just, it's going to sound derogatory, but buying kit hardware. It's like, there are certain things that make it difficult to know. Like I expected maybe a sticker on the back of the thing. It's like, this is, or one included in the package. It's like, this is the one that you bought. Put the sticker on the back of it, and then write the serial number down on the back of it too, so you'll have the serial number in a place you can find it, rather than just whenever it boots. So I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to run the new firmware thing, because it asked me type in the serial number, so I did. But I don't know if it's confirming that serial number belongs to that model.
I mean, you'd hope.
I would hope a lot of things. But
The nice thing is, it's an ESP32.
Yeah.
Which means if you brick it,
there's a way to come back from this.
yeah, it's not it is easy to bring
Right.
it back to life.
That's good.
Somebody in chat did link to a alternative firmware that hooks it up with Home Assistant.
Oh, heck yeah.
Nice. We might just end up doing that ultimately. Because, I mean, we don't have HomeKit run. You know what? I did just buy a new Apple TV for the Moonbase though. So
Let's get it going.
we could go dig out a Raspberry Pi and shove that in. Actually, you know what? I could probably run Home Assistant on one of our servers.
You could absolutely just grab a Docker container
Yeah.
and just run it that way.
Yeah, it might be the way to do it.
If you're running Linux for your
It's not like we need a lot of stuff around here to run Home Assistant, though, is the issue, right?
no, but it might be nice to have just as an option for controlling things.
I mean, if there was some really cool stuff, like some neat recipes we could invent that would help with that, I would be totally on board with
I think
it.
we'll just need to we'll need to remember that it is an option, and when one comes up, write it down.
Yeah. All right.
Where am I going here? ACK. Let's do ACK first. ACK is green. ACK is green, and ACK is in the middle of the machine. You know what I'm going to want to do here when I'm done is put down some, actually maybe even put down some hot glue just to keep these things in place.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does feel like that even more so than a typical solder connection. Those are going to be...
Not going to be the strongest system.
Kind of a little flimsy.
Well, I'm not sure. What do your Beejan eyes show you?
The thing that you just fluxed?
That
That
and
is
that.
tiny as
Those are
hell.
the connection points.
Wow!
Yeah.
Maybe, did we ever buy you any Kapton tape?
You didn't buy me any Kapton tape, but I bought me Kapton
That's
tape.
good, that's good. It seemed like a thing we should probably have gotten from you.
You may not remember what happened the last time we used the Kapton tape, though.
I was going to say, yeah, the Captain tape has not had an amazing track record on
It
the
stuck
show.
really well.
Okay.
The solder that it was supposed to protect did not stick very well.
Okay.
And so I believe all of the chips on a Arduino Pro Micro came off.
It kind of pulled up all the components.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't have that bin with me today, but I keep that one around just because it's now a bare board for an Arduino.
Oof. Wow.
It was not a good feel, but those things are $2 if you buy them in bulk from AliExpress and
Fair.
slightly less from Amazon.
Okay. Well, it's telling me here's how I can do. Well, what's the current firmware on this thing? It won't tell me what the firmware that's currently on board it is. There must be a thing somewhere that tells you how to see the firmware. Yeah, that's not helping.
Yes.
Ooh, there's a
That's 2 good joins. I'm going to quickly do continuity test on those. But I think that's that might be our first PS2 controller or PlayStation controller port wired up.
There's only 2 cables you need to actually.
Only 2 need to be soldered. The rest can go on the header pins down here. There's 2
I
down
see.
there, 2 up here. And then, of course, there's the 7 volt, which we'll try out if we want to later. And we've got on the pin the 3.3 volt, because that's got to go in the 3.3 or 5 volt hole receptacle on the side here. Hope that makes sense.
Oh, I've got Vivaldi. That's right. It was like, oh, your browser doesn't know how to do.
Web serial?
I'm guessing,
Yeah.
and it's like you should use Chrome, and I'm like, get bent.
You know what? I settled on Edge as my secondary, as my Chromium-based browser of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly because it's developer tools. They're pretty good.
I agree that it is frustrating that you need to use Chrome for that. I feel like you shouldn't be angry at Chrome for that, though. That's,
Nope.
Hey! All the way through. Okay, that's one good solder joint. Yellow is attention. That's the far third on the second trio.
This is handy. All the new firmware runs on all of the products.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The combined firmware. So, yeah,
Come
you
on.
can't screw that up, I guess.
Oh,
All right, let's unplug it.
believe you me. That's a challenge.
I was gonna say. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and on the other side, just make sure it's all the way through. Yep, that's great.
Saying you can't screw that up seems like
Flashing instructions. Important, please follow these steps for flashing only. If you only want to see debug messages and logs the monitor, please use the instructions for logging. First step, push the button on the PCB and keep it pushed. Which button, Precious?
Is there more than one button?
No, there's 2. There's EN and boot SW. And I'm like, boot SW sounds like boot software.
Yeah, that's, or boot switch.
Yeah. EN is
English.
English mode? Yeah.
Christ, I need documentation for my documentation. This is
Yep, this sounds like an open source piece of hardware.
Yeah,
The more you're describing it.
it's very weird because like
This is not like intentionally an ad for a commercial air quality thing, but in some ways it is.
yeah. And I mean, I'll get through this and it'll all make sense ultimately. It is just a very weird. I'm having a very weird feeling of like, well, press the button on the board. I'm like, but there's literally 2 buttons right there. And they're labeled, which is, thank Christ. Because if they weren't, they're just D1 and D2.
That would not be
One button always tells the truth, and one button always lies.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I could just hold down one of them and then plug the thing in and see what happens if it goes into firmware updating mode, or just dies. Like, I mean, I don't really get what we're doing here. So
I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
I can imagine a lot of stuff. You know me, I ran Linux in college, and then
Yes.
for 10 goddamn years, like I know the worst that could happen.
Oh, But that means you got out before the good times.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got out after. Though it's funny because like I follow Andy McClure on Mastodon, right?
Oh, you got it.
And she is constantly bitching about the problems she's having with her Linux box, which is fine because she's also constantly bitching about the problem she has with her Windows side of things. And it's just like, okay. And it's like, I don't mean to be like, oh, she shouldn't be doing that. Or like,
There is no winning.
there's no shaming or anything. It's like, yeah, I just maybe the other day I saw what she wrote and I was kind of like, it's just kind of a bad experience to be on a computer, isn't it?
These days?
See the Loading Ready Run video and Three Dead Trolls in a Baggy song. Every OS sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except BSD. Was that in the list?
I think he just talks about Linux.
Yeah.
So Texan, who is an enthusiast of air quality,
Friend of the show.
asks, out of curiosity, is this sensor intended to help drive future decisions regarding fresh air supply and/or filtration? In a way, it is. I mean, it's more to satisfy curiosity right now. Like, I spent a fair chunk of money I spent a fair chunk of the site's money. I mean, over $100, but whatever, to find this out. Just to be like, well, let me have this stand in different places, and then I can actually determine what things are like in different rooms over the course of a week or two or a month or whatever.
I mean, I feel like it's about driving future decisions in the sense that if it shows that there's a big problem, then clearly we need to make a change.
Yeah.
We're not anticipating that we need to, but obviously if it reveals some sort of thing.
It's informational.
Like, I definitely want to put it in Studio A and then see what happens when there are streams. When people go in and if they stream for 3 hours and they don't leave the room or whatever, it's like, does it actually get to be a problem? Would that cause people to have headaches and stuff when they come out? And like, and then you can say like, okay, look, like, the reason you're having headaches when you're doing this is because there's 3 of you in the room and you play for 3 hours and then you come out and you're like, God, I'm completely toast. It's like, you should be opening that door every hour, or you should be doing something else to, suck in more
We
oxygen.
would like to encourage you to take commercial breaks anyway.
Your breaks.
Speaking of which,
Oh, are we there? Yes, we are. It's the top of our hour, so let's do what we say and have ourselves a little break. Get up, swap your legs, stretch your fluids, and we'll be back with more Tinker Tailor Solder Fry in just a few minutes. Don't go all the way away. Welcome back to Tinker Tailor Solder Fry. Wow, that accent really hits. We're in the midst of putting together some projects. I am taking... Ooh, where's my second one? Making this touch this in a... Making this touch this in a permanent way so that this can go to a PlayStation. We can play pop and music together, Heather and I, on Sunday. Beej, what are you putting together?
I am trying to figure out what of 2 buttons will make this Air Gradient version 9 open source air quality monitor kit go into boot flash mode.
What happens if you push the wrong button?
Okay, this is, would you like to find out?
Yeah,
I did a little reading.
If they tell you.
Push the button labeled boot SW on the PCB and keep it pushed. This is also the button behind the small hole next to the USB connector on the enclosure. So if you don't want to open the enclosure, you can also press it with a small screwdriver through the enclosure, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
The EN button stands for emergency.
Well, it's a little n as well, right? Like
emergency nuclear explosion.
it is the only button that is like exposed through that.
I was just about to ask.
They both aren't, so I don't know what EN is for. But I found that in the section that says boot error during flashing. If you get an error that says failed to initialize driver setting your device or holding the boot button while clicking install during the flashing, you need to put the board into a special boot mode. So I'm like, wait, so the boot SW is so that I can flash my firmware? No, the boot SW mode launches a special boot mode? So is it the EN button is the one that I'm supposed to do this with? I'm gotta keep reading. So, because when you say release the button, if you do not do this, the board will not get into the flash mode. And I'm like, well, flash mode's what I want. So is that the flash mode? I don't know. Again, we gotta keep looking. We'll figure it out. I'm now in a completely different browser. Push the button on the PCB and keep. Maybe I need to go to the forums.
How many browsers deep are you, dude?
And also, are you sure there's no extra buttons on the other side of that board?
Could you imagine?
There are probably not.
I'd have to unscrew all the other stuff and then and this is the one you used to flash it. We didn't tell anybody that because we thought it'd be funny.
That's the special flash.
If you're looking for the build instructions, go to dedicated instructions.
Or I'm just imagining that like with it, they're like in the little plastic bag with it, there's a button that's like flash boot drive. And it's just like a button completely separate. It's like first attach the flash booting drive boot button to the PCB.
It's at the very end of the instructions.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I know what's going to happen is somebody in chat is trying to tell me what the right choice is because they're also like doing the research and they're trying to figure this out and I'm not seeing it at all, so yeah.
If spades like if that is correct, that is bonkers. But it could be correct. EN stands for imperial numbers and switches the
output numbers out of the SI.
That can't be right.
That can't be right.
Imperial? No, that can't be right.
There is a way to run the air gradient monitor in offline mode, so we're going to open that for now and have a look at that later. Oh no, it took me right there. Get it onto the latest firmware. Please go to the firmware version of Flash latest firmware. Oh, and here's how you do it. You find the button behind the small hole next to the USB connector in the backside of your monitor, press it with a small screwdriver, power on the monitor, wait until you see the message, press now for offline mode, and press the button on the backside of the monitor.
For offline mode.
For offline mode. Successful online setup is indicated in the message, offline mode equals true. I'm guessing the boot SW button, if that's the one that's actually behind this all the time, I actually don't know now because now I'm concerned that it might not be the one.
Hold on. I'll put a hole through, or I'll put something through the hole for you.
He's just getting cold feet on his wedding day. He's concerned that this may not be the one.
I can see through it. Just go down. No, lift up. Go down again. Yeah, it's boot SW. If that is the one you're supposed to press to make all the things happen.
Interesting.
Is it different on the black ones?
Extremely different.
Uh-oh.
So here was our PCB from, I guess this was the PS1?
The PS1, was that DualShock?
This one might have been just the dual analog controller.
Okay.
Oh, so you've got like a different generations.
Yeah.
It's all one PCB.
Removable.
Instead of two. That's kind of cool.
Well, no, it's still two, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's two because.
Well, because there's a ribbon cable between the joysticks and the.
Yeah. On the previous version, it's a soldered connection between the ribbons. On this one, it's a. Well, you'd think it would be removable, but it's just this plastic bracket that's used for the. For the two rumble motors.
Neat.
And everything's in the. No, I hate this. Hate this so much. Industry, do more like this. Less like this.
This is so expensive, and that is so cheap.
It sure is.
So what's the difference here? Oh, I see. It's just a.
It's not a board. It's just a.
It's a plastic membrane.
Oh god, it's a membrane. Yep. It's just a membrane that makes the connections between these buttons. Oh, that's.
So is this an earlier version, or is this a later version when they got cheaper, when they cheaped out?
I'm beginning to wonder if this might be even like a stealth third-party one, because it doesn't appear to have any Sony logos on it at all. Yeah. God, what a terrible membrane.
All right. Well, let's just do the needful.
Do the thing.
Yeah.
All right. I
have pressed the button.
Yeah, is this secretly a Mad Catz controller?
Yeah.
I've plugged in the cable. I've released
You've
the
done
button.
this.
Yeah. I held down the button. I plugged in the USB thing that has been working this entire time, and now nothing is showing up on the screen. I'm going to put that. I'm going to move that to go over top of the whole screen, just because I feel like that should have been the way they did it to begin with.
Oh my god, is that soldered in there?
Is it in flash mode? How do I fucking know anything?
We're getting into the philosophical
Okay, that works.
the works of Descartes.
Plato once asked upon trying to flash his ESP32, how the fuck do I know anything? Diogenes shows up. It's an Arduino!
Hark! Behold, an Arduino.
How best to get these wires out? I guess knife? Knife will... Knife time.
I'll press any fucking button you want. Is there a third button on this thing?
Well, knife time over.
No, that's too bad.
No, really, it's knife time is over.
Oh, that is too bad.
Yeah.
Oh my god, where did the rest of knife go?
Away.
Don't tell me that.
Hold on a second. Yeah, away. Let's just yank.
Is there a third button on this thing? And am I losing my mind?
Goodbye, Exacto Blade.
You were disposable.
Good night, blade. Good night, maid.
Ooh. Good night, maid.
Cow jumping over the glade.
Good night, maid. Murdering the man in the bathtub with the blade. It's classic painting, you see.
What?
Oh, that just blinked.
There we go. Go directly to. Oh wow! Yep, that took the bar out of that
If I click that,
membrane.
it resets.
Just look at that, right off the board. I hate this.
That's the reset button.
Oh, that was.
That sounded so messy.
It was, but they're big messes, so we can
Alright.
take care of them easily.
Well, let's hold down the EN button and plug it in and see if it goes into flash mode.
In all the Tinker Tailor Solder Fries, I have seldom see you have such a disgusted reaction to a piece of electronics.
Oh, it's you don't run into bad stuff that often. Well, at least not as bad as this is. I'm gonna see. Are these buttons even double? Okay, well at least they double shot the buttons still.
I mean, it's black, so assuming that's from the PS2 era. Is it?
Probably.
So they're still probably manufacturing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, but again, as we said, no Sony branding anywhere inside this. So I am sus.
Although
Flash now.
Gizmoloid in chat says photos on the iFixit site of a disassembling a PlayStation controller look very similar.
Oh well.
So it might be just genuine Sony cheapness.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's Sony on the controller port, but.
What the hell?
I wonder if this was like, a controller for like one of those like a PS1 or a PS or like the PS2 Slim or something, where they were sort of later in the manufacturing cycle, and they were like, turns out we can get away with doing it way cheaper.
All right, let's attempt to just very carefully cut through our insulation. Although there's a lot of, or at least there used to be, on the last one there was a lot of grounding. What do you got, Beej?
I don't know if this thing. So we talked about the cables before, right? That I'm like, I bought this stuff because I needed a power cable, a USB-C, to power a Mac, essentially, right?
Right.
To plug into this.
Oh, right. You're worrying about the possibility that.
Is it charge only? Is it and I'm trying to remember if what I bought, and it's an Anchor cable, but I know that I was buying like, I need something to carry 100 watts. And I'm pretty sure that the one that I bought was USB 2. I love that over USB-C, right? It is USB 2, and I think that means that if it's USB 2, that means it's USB 2 data and can also do charge.
Should be.
The only way I can confirm this would be to go see what I bought when I got it on Amazon, which means I have to go start looking through all my receipts. Or I can just try to hook this thing up instead and see if it works.
May I suggest a secret third thing?
What's that?
Check, not activity monitor, system profile.
System profiler.
Yeah, check your USB.
All right.
Do a probe.
What does it see?
Monterey.
I know, right?
Brave.
Dual core Intel Core i5.
Oh wow.
This is a let's freaking bring it up. Let's go hard. This is a MacBook Pro 13-inch 2016 with 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports and the Touch Bar.
Yeah.
The watch made long.
Thought that this might be a nice thing that we bought this for Heather. I bought this refurbed. I thought it might be a nice thing to have the Touch Bar. Because they're like, oh, it exposes all sorts of cool controls. I'm like, that might be handy for like when you're trying to do stuff in Final Cut Pro or whatever. And she told me later, she's like, no, it's actually just a massive pain in the ass.
Yes, that's the only review I've ever heard of the Touch Bar.
Yep.
I mean, if they'd actually committed to it and so that other people could actually use it, then maybe it could have been interesting.
Well,
but-
the one the problem with trying to make a bar like that is a keyboard is trying to be a keyboard shortcut system that is reconfigurable and requires you to look down at it and see what state it's in.
Yeah.
Removes its utility as being a shortcut device. If you can't trust that it's going to be in a certain state and not have to look at it.
And it's weird because like what I mostly use my function keys for is change brightness, change volume. I don't really use them for much
I
else.
generally only use them to enter BIOS modes.
Sure. And so to me, it's like having this that's like reconfigurable. I'm like, I kind of like the idea of having this reconfigurable thing, but it is odd that it's like tap the volume, slide the volume back and forth. There's brightness here as well. And it's like they expose the things.
If it had been opened up to third parties the way that Control Strip in the macOS 9 days was,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would have been...
Load your own widgets into
Oh,
it.
God, yeah.
Have like read out important information.
like there were some APIs for it, but I mean the problem was that they didn't commit to it in the sense of it was only ever on that one laptop. Like if they had actually put out like a desktop, if they put like a desktop keyboard with it built in as well,
Yes.
and actually like said this is a cool thing that we're doing, and then made it more of a thing, but they only sort of did it in one. They did it in one model of laptop and then dropped it, and so nobody really cared.
Now that I'm actually using a real Macintosh as my daily driver, the watch system of unlocking via your watch is working for me quite nicely. But up until that point, there was one product that I wanted more than anything else from Apple, and that was just literally a Touch ID button that you could just plug into your computer and use. And what people are doing in some of the upper echelons of the Mac community is taking older or non-fully functional versions of the keyboard that has the Touch ID on it and removing everything else except for the
Touch ID part.
yeah, the Touch ID and the circuit board that controls the Touch ID.
Because all you really want is just a thing that can hang off the edge of your laptop that you can just press your finger to and be like, good.
Or more importantly, just super glue to the bottom of your desk.
Oh, that's good.
Anytime you need to SU do something, just stick your finger up.
Yeah. if you're always working in the same place and having, I kind of like that. It's kind of a cool idea.
If you have a desktop,
Yeah.
and you don't want to use Apple's keyboard,
Yeah.
and you still want Touch ID, it's
is-
the only way.
It is super frustrating. I do find that it's like I come to work, I plug this thing into this essentially, and I put it under my monitor, and then I have a separate keyboard, and it is very frustrating to be like, and I now cannot use any of the benefits of Touch ID. Also, because what I do with my work computer is I have I have a home profile on here as well. I have 2 users on here. So I have one that I can work with at home, and I have one to work with at work, and never the twain shall meet. But that means that my watch
I was just about to ask.
only
because-
wants to talk to Beej. It doesn't want to talk to the computer that is at
Work
the moon
Beej,
base.
yep.
Yeah. And
Because
it's like,
not a profile,
yeah.
There's
but
been-
a user.
There's been a few times where, we've been doing something here at the office and we need to get something off, Graham's computer. And be like, Graham, come closer. Come closer here. Bring your wrist over here. We need to log in.
All right, this is a USB JTAG / serial debug unit, as far as it's concerned.
So great, you are seeing something though.
Yeah,
and that's the
version
important thing.
1.01, speed up to 12 megabit per second.
Yeah, just wear 2 watches, Beej.
Just get 2 watches.
Yeah, your day watching your night watch.
Yeah.
By the way, no, you're on Zeta.
Yeah, I'm on Zeta. That's right.
Doc Ocelot in the chat there, Beige, did have a note there that I don't know if that's useful to you.
Let's see. While the sensor is not plugged in, you have to press and hold the button to plug in the USB, and after the computer sees the device, you can release the button. True, Doc Ocelot. However, there are 2 buttons. Which one?
Haven't we established that it's the
Pretty
button?
sure it's just
Pretty sure it's boot SW at this point.
Yeah.
That's always been my problem, is trying to figure out which is the one. So, yeah. But
Like
USB
nothing
JTAG.
is indicated that it's the EN button, right?
Well, what I've discovered by turning it on and pressing the EN button while it's plugged in is it resets. It's actually just a soft reset, like a really fast soft reset. Install Air Gradient 1 open air version. Yes, let's do that. Do you want to erase the device? Yes, I guess I have to. Do you want to install? I'll divide on the yes, install. Preparing installation. There is a note here. Select the serial port your monitor is connected to. It is typically called USB JTAG/serial debug.
There you go.
Yeah. If I just
Kept reading.
kept reading, I would have seen the thing that would have said, here's what you do. Hard to do that when I plugged it in and said I want to flash this thing, it just, because it says click the blue flash now button, right? And it pops up a giant dialogue on screen that I cannot get rid of that says, which one of these things do you want me to, do you want to use the Bluetooth one? Do you want to use this other Bluetooth port? Do you want to go through UART1? And I'm like, not even UART1, just UART1? Okay,
Well, I mean, if EN stands for imperial numbers, then all is lost.
It's been very weird that it's like, I guess if I had read all the instructions, then I would have been able to, like, rather than going one at a time through the thing, I should have read them all and been like, I see. Installation is complete.
I don't know why I only do that for recipes. Like, is it like I'm afraid of spoilers in my manual? Is that what's happened? That the spoiler culture thing has spread so far that in avoidance of spoilers, I'm not reading manuals.
Well,
Oh, now I know that I'm going to end up plugging the cable in.
Ian, I have a
no fun.
console.
Sweet.
What do you think I should type into it?
PSOX.
PSOX. Nothing.
Oh,
LS doesn't give me anything.
you're not even BusyBox.
No, it's not showing me anything
Shoot,
there.
okay,
All right,
that's,
let's just
uh,
reset the device. Oh, here we go. ESP-ROM. I have a console. I can see
Do-
everything. I can
Don't-
see everything.
It's a Unix system.
Don't believe chat when they say RM space RF.
They might not have my best. They might not have my best issues in mind. I wish this thing would just have a thing on screen being like flash, like just be like, you know what mode you're in. But that's okay. Now now it says after flashing, start the monitor by unplugging the USB-C cable and plugging it back in.
Out pull the burn ROM.
I get that it is a.
Nothing is happening. There we go.
I get that it is an air monitor, but I feel like calling it monitor is unnecessarily confusing. Maybe
Yes.
just call it the.
Press down for offline mode.
No. We're gonna fuck around with this more.
Oh, yeah,
later,
no,
but yeah,
but-
just, I know I can do
I'm
it.
excited that you're seeing that.
I wasn't seeing it before. Sorry, Paul. Finish your thought.
I wish they called it like the air gradient and stuff rather than calling it monitor in the instructions.
Yeah.
Or it's like turn off my monitor. Okay,
Click.
now I can't see anything. How did that help?
Oh, I get told to do that all the time on something awful. Turn off your monitor.
Turn device 180 degrees and try again.
It is saying connecting to Wi-Fi. ... I got a blue light. That's brand new. And now I have a countdown telling me how to connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot. So I was running some pretty old firmware on this, apparently. That is brand new. That is very interesting.
You have 10 seconds to connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot.
10 seconds to comply with Wi-Fi.
Drop it.
Otherwise, we will release the gas. I don't know.
So
Oh yeah, it is.
Purple I don't
It is
need.
very, very different now.
red gets the pin.
Now, are the colors the same in this?
Thankfully, yes.
Oh, that's
the
nice.
colors are very nicely the same size. Oh, your colors are different now.
It's
though.
all freaking bright blue instead of yellow like it was before. Things
That-
have changed a lot.
Only 2 minutes to connect.
Is the in the firmware patch notes, is like changed lights from yellow to blue.
Oh, interesting. They have a check mark here for prevent connection to air gradient server. Important. Only enable if you don't want to use any air gradient cloud features. As a result, you don't receive automatic firmware updates and your data will not reach the air gradient dashboard.
That sounds like something you want.
Except that it's true. I do want to do that. What I'm concerned about is
like if you're not using the air gradient dashboard, how do you access
how do I
it?
get the data off of it? Like if it's collecting data and stuff.
Oh, if you want the data, that's again.
Where do I get it?
Yeah, that's probably where you want the Home Assistant firmware.
Yeah. So we'll just say I'm saving credentials. It's going to connect to our Wi-Fi. Now I have a white light. Now I have 11 white lights. Now I have a chasing green.
Ooh, now it's a Cylon.
Yeah. That's actually really good if I do it like this. You can really see the stuff on top. Okay. Neato.
You can tell when your air monitor's having sex.
Oop. Oh, wait, is that a progress bar? 1, 2.
I'm not sure what it means yet.
There are 2 lights.
It says that I have a much lower CO2 ppm.
Than it said before?
Yeah.
Huh.
VOC is moving around. NOx, which is of course not like it's NO and then a little X, 'cause like NO1, NO2, right?
Yeah, our CO2 seems actually. This is interesting. If it's maintaining its calibration between boots and it's not, the firmware isn't adjusting it, that is noticeably higher than it was at the beginning of this stream.
Oh no, it was 800 at the beginning of the
was
stream.
it? Okay.
So it's dropped by 100.
I thought it was at 600.
But it did say that it takes 7 days to break in the sensor. So you have to run it for 7 days in a single location for it to figure out what the baseline is. And I think it just kind of constantly ticks down over time until it's like, oh, now I know what the baseline is for CO2. It must be this. And then as it starts to see like changes, then it's like, well, now I know what the actual level is.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting. I'd never heard it. I guess that's how it works. Like the reason why this thing was interesting to me was, I mean, it was the open source thing, but it was like it seems like it's a collaborative effort to be like, we want to build inexpensive air monitors that can cover all the bases, that don't cost $300, that still look attractive, that you can put up in your place of business.
Yeah, you're not.
Because they even have a thing here
ashamed.
that's like, we have an air gradient monitor, like DIY project that you can build so that you can see all of the readouts of all of what like indoors and outdoors to put in classrooms. So that if you're teaching kids about this, you have a thing you can show them on a little screen and they can always see what the readouts are without having to go consult the devices.
Or if you're trying to pressure your local school board to put in appropriate air scrubbing and filtration systems in your school.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
now it's possible that between the course of the last time you were looking at this and now, for instance, the HVAC might have turned on and done
It's
a
true.
cycle.
I can feel a bit of a brief breeze. So we don't have mini splits for the whole moon base. We have a mini split in Studio A. We have a mini split in Studio B.
For places that need intense cooling because they're being used actively.
That you're going to have people in them, but the doors are going to be shut all the time, so they're going to get hot. We learned that
They're-
from the last 2 moon bases.
Yeah, they're sort of their own confined environment.
And then we have a mini split in the server room, which is permanently set to cooling. But in my conversations with the HVAC technicians when they were renovating this place, is that I'd asked about what HVAC is like here, because it is big conduits and it's it's just lots of big conduits in the ceiling. Not all of them are in the ceiling, in fact. But they go up to a unit on the roof, and I asked about that, and they said, yeah, this is your heat pump for these are your heat pumps for your office space. And I was like, you mean like an actual, because they're massive, right? And they're like, yeah, these are straight up, these are heat pumps.
Yeah, because a heat pump isn't necessarily a mini split. Your fridge is a heat pump.
Yeah.
Anything that pumps heat
But the idea-
via gas.
Yeah.
The idea, though, is that it's not actually bringing in new air. It's just recycling.
Yeah, that's my fear, because it's like we don't know if we're getting. We don't know if there's if there's a fresh air supply, a lot of houses for decades were never built with a fresh air supply in mind. They were built with the idea that your house naturally breathes anyway because it's not airtight. So so you have furnaces and air conditioning and stuff that's all kind of hooked up to work with like in central air and stuff, but it means that the air circulation, you're only getting a bit of fresh air, and it's more modern houses and facilities that are built where they have a fresh air intake that's meant to inject fresh air into your place.
Because we've spent the last few decades getting people interested in the idea of insulation. And insulation requires a airtight system.
So Texan says if there's air ducting that goes to the roof unit, it could have fresh air. If it's just coolant lines, no fresh air. Our mini splits, all coolant lines. Our HVAC, our rest of our HVAC conduit, all runs up to the roof. Like I've been on the roof and I've seen the massive things that go
Yeah,
up.
there's definitely big conduit stuff. So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
But it's yeah. I mean, our whole the HVAC setup in the office here is a little bit wonky anyway.
Yes, it is.
Just in terms of how it's routed and things, that makes things a little difficult. But it'll be interesting to see, what those numbers are.
The what Paul is talking about specifically is the fact that our the way the conduits run in the ceiling, they don't make a lot of sense in terms of zones. So I think we've talked about this before to people. Half of Studio C, this half we're sitting on one side, is running off of one thermostat because it's on one duct. It's on like one. You've seen how long our place is, right? So one conduit is running the length of this side of the moon base, and on the other side of the moon base, it's another conduit that's running the other side, like lengthwise. So Studio C is actually pumping in air from two different conduits, and only one of them, we have a thermostat in Studio C that only directly addresses one, and it's the one that's on this side because it's the closest one. So the other one is dumping in air that's also going to the friend zone, essentially.
Yeah,
it's very complicated.
Yeah, the configuration of the HVAC was not intended for the configuration of rooms that we have. Unfortunately, it didn't. So it's not as it makes balancing the heat in the moon base a little tricky.
Yep.
But luckily, Studio A and Studio B are sort of independent, so they can always be.
Thankfully,
they can always be set to whatever we want.
Yellow to the top.
So I have updated this thing. I can request CO2 calibration. That's a new thing that I wasn't able to do before. I don't know what that means. I'll have to read the documentation. My dashboard shows...
What happens if it just says no? Request no.
Nah, get bent. I think I'm allowed to set up multiple locations. So if I set this down in a new area, I can say you're now in this location. And then that way when it's collecting data from an area, the dashboard can be like, I know all this is from Studio A. And then I can look at multiple locations to see where this thing is and what it is doing. But I don't have to set up multiple monitors everywhere.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the directions that tell me how to finish everything, because I think the last thing I need to do is just sew it all up.
That's what those pieces of masking tape are for.
Right. Let's see. It says I have direct flash to the browser. I did not have a boot error. Follow below to see debug messages and logs of the monitor. I can see debug messages and also identify the serial number by doing the serial debug thing we just did. Air gradient dashboard. And that makes an account. Didn't have to do any of that, but apparently I had to do all of that. What the shit? And then from version 3, you can set unit of temperature, LED bar are on or off. You can say if you want your PM 2.5 in micrograms per meters cubed or in US AQI.
Air quality index.
Yeah. CO2 baseline calibration, set CO2 baseline duration, TVOC and NOx sensor module settings. So I have a lot of things I can control. I can switch the LED bar to say either show me the particulate matter or the CO2. I don't know what it's set to right now. I'll have to look later. And yes, here's how you force CO2 sensors. Put the monitor outside or open all windows for at least 20 minutes.
There's no CO2 outside, famously.
Well, it sets it to 400 ppm because that's average outdoor CO2. Ensure you have ambient CO2 levels at the monitor. Go to the hardware administration page and on the dashboard, click on Actions, Edit Sensor, Request CO2 Calibration, press Save. Wait for a few minutes. It should then display around 400 ppm. That's how it figures out.
I would much rather be in a situation where it says, go down to your local, I don't know, grocery store, grab one of those CO2 canisters that you use for making soda water, and just shove that into one of the holes in the back.
Just hold the thing down while you're telling it to calibrate. It will detect 10 million ppm or just infinite ppm.
100%.
Yes. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, that second one, by the way, here, I am done effectively. I'm gonna do a quick check, but that second one was much faster now that we know the process.
You risk the Kapton tape I see on these both. But
Yeah, well, the Kapton tape itself isn't the problem. It's the Kapton tape trying to protect from heat gun. So heat gun is the true final boss nemesis of
Right.
loading ready runs Tinker Tailor Solar Fry.
Don't people, I thought I saw people before when they're trying to heat gun the thing, but they need to guard is they'll take like aluminum foil and they'll put that on as a heat shield and put like Kapton tape on to hold
I've
it to the
seen
board
that
and shit.
too, yeah,
Yeah.
occasionally.
I don't know how well any of that works. I've been watching people do like the kind of like, oh, well, here's how we do mods for game systems, right? It's like, and then take your heat gun and spray it at the board, and then take all the things off, and then take your heat gun, because I fluxed everything, put it back down and spray it at the board again, and then just take your heat gun off, and look, everything's soldered down. And I'm like,
So the plan is, once we're actually done with these, is to get some standoffs and some threaded things we can put into the wood, so we can screw this up onto the actual board
okay.
of the arcade board, and then, most importantly, get some strain relief on here that will also screw to the wood, and that means nothing will move around, and no bad times will be had.
Yeah,
That's great.
we do have some hot glue and stuff here, but
Yeah.
You could put a couple screws in at alternate angles and just wind the thing around it.
That's, well, I think when Ben Swallow put together the package for the Naomi, he packaged in some strain relief pieces of plastic that you can just thread through and then screw into the MDF as well.
That's cool.
So we've got options.
Nice.
But I want to make it nice and clean.
it does seem interesting that like parts per million or whatever that CO2 is measured in, like that it has to be calibrated against whatever outside is. Like it seems like that should be sort of an objective measurement. Like it's not this much higher than or I guess it is what it's like, rather than measuring the actual parts per million, it's measuring how much higher it is versus a certain amount, which seems odd.
You're absolutely correct, Paul, in that. But the problem is that when you've got an electronic device like this that it can measure something and it can give you an output value of how it's measuring that, but essentially you don't know how big the ruler is that they're using and what the numbers correspond to.
Right, I guess it's not literally counting the particles.
Yeah,
it's actually just the volume of particles makes a certain electric charge on the whatever.
And so you need to get that baseline to be able to say, okay, we know that it's supposed to be this.
Yeah, and the sensors they used are apparently, it's like the whole point in doing this was to find different sensors they could source cheaply enough, but that would still also read out in a good way. Like, be like, they're sensitive enough to give you a reading that's reliable, but also they're not like crap sensors, but also that they're not like $500 per piece or whatever, right?
And I can give you an idea as to why that's the case. If you've ever bought more than one microphone in your lifetime, you'll notice that probably your first microphone just came out of the box and you used it. And then the microphone you bought after that came with a little piece of paper giving you the information of how that microphone responds at certain frequencies. That calibration costs a lot of money.
Right.
And if you're calibrating the sensor in the factory, that's going to add to the cost.
So, and it's like, so if you happen to if you lived in a really smoggy place, like folks were saying that like the average outdoor CO2 ppm is like 400. If you lived in a really smoggy place, and so you put it outside for a while and it calibrated to that, and it took that as 400, does that mean that all its measurements are going to be off?
They're going to be offset by that amount.
It would be funny though, because if you brought it inside where your air is actually much cleaner for whatever reason, it would show as being lower than outside, and you'd be like, oh, I guess I have to understand what that means.
Yeah. The trouble is you need to find something that's going to be a situation that can be replicatable by the user and calibrate off that.
Right. So yeah, if your device will say it's, outside it's 400, it's 400, and then you'll realize that it's like, actually when it says it's whatever 800 ppm, that's actually 2000 ppm, and that's dangerous.
Like, I think ideally what you might want to do is just, if you have local air quality readings in your area, check them, and then you'll know how much to offset against. If I were to design this, I mean, that would be a terrible idea.
Presumably that in the firmware there's some setting that you can set an offset.
But my calibration technique for this one would be, go pick up a few hundred grams of dry ice.
Right.
Place this powered on inside of a sealed, inside of a pot with the lid on it,
Right.
with the dry ice inside.
Right.
It will then calibrate to a saturation level of CO2,
Right.
and you know that's the 100%. I've had to calibrate thermometers in the past, and thermocouples as well for the same reason.
See,
And there's a couple different. You can do it via the boiling side, because boiling water is 100 degrees Celsius. Boiling water cannot be more than 100 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
But the one people like to use, because it's a lot more reliable, is the ice water one. Because ice water, if you take ice and water and salt to reduce that, reduce the solidification point just a bit,
Right.
that water can never be less than 0 degrees and still be at room temperature, or not at room temperature, but at standard pressure. So that's how you calibrate.
You can't. Water will not remain liquid below 0 degrees. So you do that.
Yeah, you just put as much ice as you can, a little bit of salt, enough water to get it, and that's, for cooking purposes, close enough to 0 degrees Celsius for your purposes.
Like Texan says, unfortunately, without submarine-style lithium CO2 scrubbers, you cannot get lower indoor CO2 than outdoor.
Again, remember, lithium CO2 scrubbers if you're planning your own little trip down to the Titanic. Do not just get some CO2 scrubbers and a computer fan.
So I have put the case on with the terrible screws, and the awful screwdriver makes it incredibly difficult to turn and finish it.
Oh, do you want a good screwdriver?
I would love a good screwdriver if you got
I'm
one.
going to let you find your bit too.
Yay!
They are marked, just not very well.
Please do not tell me how to open the package.
No.
I will break it myself.
Did not come with the screwdriver, but it was one of my favorite purchases I've made in the last year.
Ooh. Oh.
Oh.
That's kind of cool. Okay.
That's the wrong pin that I was trying to get. Attention is the one I want.
I'm turning all your bits over so the labels are facing up.
Good, that's one. Number two is, I think, yeah, I can tell by the yellow leaking through from the flex. Green is acknowledge. Wait, no, that's not. Yeah, ACK. Come on, ACK.
The bits reminds me of I was watching a video about on Linus Tech Tips, and one of the things they were talking about their they've got their fancy screwdriver that they made.
Oh yes.
And they're talking about one of the things that they had to go through a design process is the receiver end on it. hex shaped hole, they foolishly made it according to the spec for what that standardized size for
The end of a bit is.
for the bit is.
Yes.
And according to the spec, you make it's like the hole has to be, whatever, 1/4 inch within a certain tolerance, and then the bit fits inside that. And so they made the hole like that, and they made the bits like that. It turns out that what everybody in the industry does is makes the bits a 1/4 inch, and then makes the socket so that it fits around the bit. Which means that the difference, it means that other people's bits that would sometimes not quite fit in their driver because like the tolerances were slightly out. So they had to like slightly adjust it. It's that like making it to the spec versus making it to what the industry does.
It is very magnetic. This is a really nice casing. How do I use this?
Oh, so you can just use it as a normal screwdriver, but
Right. Or
if
I can
you-
run Doom on it.
Tetris.
I can run Tetris on it.
Actually, you could. I think the OLED is no longer working on it.
okay.
So the idea of it is there's a button on the side here. Other side, right there.
Oh, that.
The idea is you hold that down and twist, and it will continue to go in that direction. But I think you may just need to use manual power because it's probably going to be self-tapping.
I think I am.
Unless you've cross-threaded everything.
Unless, well, it's the thing is like, yeah, I think it is in the. I mean, I should be able to get more torque, but it definitely does feel like it's like it doesn't want to screw down anymore, and it's just gonna bind. So we have just a loose kind of.
So there is another bit driver in there if you want to use a thinner one that's more automatic, but
I just feel like it's gotten as far as it's gonna get in there.
that's really weird that it's just.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? No, that's why you need to use your tiny bit there.
Because that's too.
It's binding against the hole.
Yeah.
That's why you can't screw it in.
It's stuck in the. Right.
The bit itself is wider than
Too
the.
fat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. It did say you might want to use a more robust screwdriver. It's like, well, then that's what I will use.
Yeah, if one will fit.
If one will fit. Does it care? It does. It cares. This
Very
is the
much,
end
yeah.
that goes in. Okay. And then you go in.
And just click it. Oh. And it's a
Delicious.
self-contained
Yeah.
holder for bits.
Well, I largely don't care that it's that it is the way that it is. That's just kind of a good philosophy in general, I think. I think this just goes in the back of this. Sure, why not? Just break it. Server connection successful. There we go.
Hey, it's connected to the server.
And that plugs in the back, and now it stands up on tiny, cute little legs.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, it's got screw holes in the back, so you
set
can
that for-
mount it. So hopefully we
Actually,
can see
here.
Why is it orange all of a
The
sudden?
lights have gone red.
Yeah.
You
Now
made it
they're
angry.
full red. There we go. That should be on the.
Yeah.
CO2.
Oh, CO2 is massive now.
Man, you can see the whole the whole scan line on that OLED.
Yeah, holy crap. I'm going to unplug it so that I can plug it into a different one on the other side. But it runs off of 5 volt 2 amp, which means if I can find a 5 volt 2 amp just hanging about in the back room somewhere that has a USB plug on it, I can just plug this thing in on USB, plug it into a 5 volt 2 amp.
Has
and go from
anyone
there.
bought an iPhone in the past number of years?
Well, those are. Wait, no, yeah, those are 10 watt, aren't they?
Yeah,
so
usually.
there'd be 2 amp, yeah. Did somebody buy one of those before they stopped including them in the package?
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that, though, that of course, as they've been removing stuff from the parcels, the boxes have been getting thinner and thinner and thinner, which has been kind of nice in a way to be like the boxes just keep getting smaller, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. Eventually they'll just be in like a paper envelope.
I was just going to say, eventually they'll be on a blister pack on the wall.
Well, Lisa Jackson would have their ass if it's
Yes.
like, yeah, But it did feel like for a minute that it was like it's gonna be like where you could go to like the stacker machines and there'd be like an iPod hanging up in like a little plastic package that's on the thing. I'm like, eventually they're just gonna be on like paper boxes on a little thing that, yeah.
Did you hear, now, just because we're still talking about iPhone, did you hear about the way that they're attaching batteries to the interior of the cases now?
Yeah, they're electrically adhesive.
Yeah, I that blows my mind.
Never heard of this before.
For those who aren't aware, what's going on in the new iPhone 16s, not the Pros, but the regular 16s, is that the battery is adhered to the interior of the case with an electronic adhesive. In order to release the adhesive, what you do is you take a 9-volt battery and the alligator clamps that come with it in the battery replacement case. One gets attached to the battery at a certain point,
Yep.
and the other connection gets attached to the phone case. Leave it for 15 seconds, and it just lifts off. Like
Yeah.
gravity is enough to remove it, and it leaves no residue behind. Unless, of course, you hook up the battery backwards, at which case it just adheres more,
right.
apparently.
Is that something that electronically activated adhesive? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good part of the future.
How can regular people get that? Like, is that available as a product, or is that only like super special?
I'd assume so.
Well, it kind of puts me in mind of a lot of things that go on when it comes to the iPhone, where it's like, hey, we have this really cool thing we can make. And then Apple's like, oh, we want to use that and make 15 million of that to put into our product. And they're like, great, and that'll drive down the prices so everybody else can buy it a year later.
yeah, that's part of what Apple does.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can see where they're coming from. The previous version, but they kind of popularized the 3M pull tape
Yeah.
that releases and destroys itself when you pull that.
Yeah.
And then, now it's something new. It's kind of cool. I honestly think we are kind of at a good point here where we can shut things down tonight.
Okay.
Because I've completed the most important task here. You've got your air purifier up and running, ready to go.
Yeah. But at least good enough for now that it's like we can get it on a plug and I can plug it in other places and let it go nuts if I need to. But yeah.
Yeah, so not exactly what we intend. Well, not exactly what I intended to do
No.
on this stream to begin with, but definitely we made progress and continuing success, which is kind of weird for Tinker Tailor Soldier Fry. Plus, that means we get to schedule your sushi for another time. For those of you who are curious and tuned in just directly, we'll take a few
that's
seconds here
fair.
to show you where we're at with this. This is the kit that we are running. It is Ebi Sushi Shrimp.
I was surprised it looked as good as it did.
It's amazing how good this looks. This is the top of the model kit here. Good shiny shrimp.
Yeah.
You get to attach the tail pieces yourself. And this is the last grid of, I'm going to say this is koshi hikari rice. Because what you do is you cut out each individual grain and glue them to the bottom of the shrimp itself, and that, as you can see, looks startlingly like sushi rice.
They clearly spent like more effort than you would expect to like match the sort of the specular aspect of rice. Like it's got it sort of has that slight the slight translucentness.
There's a word for that, and I can't remember what it is, because there's a woman in Japan right now who is compiling the lexicon on rice. And by lexicon, I mean the specifically industry-specific, what will become standardized terms for describing texture, taste, mouthfeel, etc. of rice.
Ooh.
This is one of those things that I didn't know about this until now, but this is something that happens in various culinary aspects of the world, as you get these lexicons of how to describe the flavor. That's why coffee tasters always use the same words to describe things. It's why wine tasters
Yeah.
do the same thing. And this woman is applying that now to Japanese rice.
Right, it's Appellation Contrôlée is what they refer to it, I believe, in France when it
Yeah.
comes to a lot of that kind of stuff, yeah.
And so that'll be available apparently later this year, free for use and for anyone. But until then, I guess we'll just have to make use with terms like specular highlights and goma goma. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's Tinker, Tailor, Solder, Fry. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us watching. It's been a pleasure to have you, Beej, on the stream, putting together something we've had on your desk for a while now, and now actually makes use.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have
I'm
that.
excited to see it work too. I mean, what's going to happen is I'm going to unplug it. It's going to sit somewhere else, and when I feel like I have time to work with it, then I'll be working.
Calibrated.
Well, and also like because it's as it's come up in chat, it's like that is a thing that connects to an external dashboard somewhere else. It has like I need to learn a little bit more about how it works.
I said you had to VNet that shit.
Yeah, I gotta lock it down so it can't do anything weird. But for the time being, it's like the thing.
Yeah.
We've made the thing, and if I run it in offline mode, and it can always show me what is going on in a room, that's fine too.
That's really all that you need. That's most important.
Yeah.
Is just being able to know what's going on CO2 wise.
Yeah.
Speaking of being in a room full of CO2, thanks again to Paul on the ones and twos over in the Crystal Gondola.
I'm feeling fine.
Oh, good.
I mean, you've got both your doors open, so that's probably the good plan. And of course, a big thank you to you at home for watching, whether it's in the chat live as we're streaming at twitch.tv or just hanging out watching on YouTube. We love seeing all of you. So from myself, Beej, and Paul, thanks once again for watching. See you in a fortnight, never in fortnight, ever forward, learning out of spite. Good night.